Thank you very much. It's great to be back in Louisiana. I had a very pleasant experience in 2012 here in the state of Louisiana, and I want to thank all of those who were very supportive of me during that run. During that 2012 campaign, we went out and campaigned on basic conservative values, and I thought that would be a winning thing since the Republican Party is the conservative party in America. Now, there are some who are suggesting that we no longer should be that way. There are some who are suggesting that in order to win, that we have to compromise. We have to compromise on our values in order to be able to win elections. Well, let's think about this for a second. What is a conservative? I always use the definition of a great conservative author, Russell Kirk. Russell Kirk defined conservatism as the stewardship of patrimony. In other words, patrimony, our inheritance. What conservatism is looking at what has worked and what we have inherited from previous generations that have caused America to be the greatest country in the history of the world. Conservatism isn't an ideology, isn't a theory. It is a practice of what has made America great. It is a set of principles and values that have succeeded in building the strongest country in the history of the world. All these other theories, socialism, libertarianism, you name the other isms, they're all things that are great little ideologies, but they have not worked or succeeded anywhere near as successful as we have, as conservatives. And so when people say to me, well, we have to do this to win, my answer is, what do we win? If we give up what we know works in order to win, are we winning? Is America winning? And so I am of the belief that the problem with the Republican Party is that we have people in the party who don't believe in the very foundational principles of our party. And I understand that. And we're at a disadvantage, and here's the disadvantage. You see, the Democratic Party is perfectly aligned. The Democratic Party is the party of the left, party of the radical left. That's who the base of the Democratic Party is, and that's who their funders are. You see, the Democratic Party is simply an amalgamation of special interest groups. Labor unions, abortion rights, gay rights, trial lawyers, you go on down the list, environmentalists. That's who the Democratic Party is. And that's where their money comes from. All of these hard left groups. Well, the Republican Party is a conservative party made up of a broad cross-section of Americans with no real special interests. Oh, we have business groups, but if you look at business groups, they support as many Democrats these days as Republicans. No, the Republican Party is a conservative party, but unfortunately our funders are not. Our funders tend to be more moderate. And if you think about it, where is the money in America? The money in America is in the major cities. You ever look at a map, election map of America? And you look, if you came from Mars and you thought, well, that party that's the red party that's winning all these counties, they're the ones that must be the big majority in America. No, it's those dark navy blue centers where the cities are, like here in Louisiana. Well, that's where the money is in America, and that's where the funders of the Republican Party live. And by the way, that's where the expert political class lives. And so when you hear them on every TV station, not just some, but on all, the experts and the funders, you're going to hear the voice of these dark blue communities when they say, well, I don't know anybody. I have none of my friends who feel this way. Well, get out of New York City and Washington. You might meet a few people that do. So the answer to the Republican problem of division is not acceding what we know doesn't work to win, but is articulating a vision to America that's a winning message that is consistent with conservative principles. I authored a book just published a month ago, this month actually, May. It's called Blue Collar Conservatives. And the reason I authored this book was very simple. The Republican Party has changed as to who the Republicans are. It has changed in my state of Pennsylvania. The Republican areas of Pennsylvania used to be the wealthy suburban counties. No longer. In fact, look at surveys, white-collar Americans are now split Republican and Democrat. It used to be overwhelmingly Republican, not anymore. In fact, the real wellspring of the Republican Party is in middle America, working America. People ask you, what's a blue-collar conservative? Someone who believes in the value of work, of responsibility, of faith, of family, and of limited government. That's a blue-collar conservative. And guess what? A lot of them aren't voting for us. They're not voting for us because we have a message that doesn't connect with them. We have a message that's stuck in what the party used to be. The party used to be the party of business. We are no longer the party of business. Oh, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be the party of growth. We should be the party of growth. Our message has to be a message of growth. But it can't just be pro-growth. It has to be pro-growth and pro-worker. And our message is always about, think about what our message is. It's always about business. It's always about business. It's about cutting taxes so business can grow, balancing the budget, and cutting benefits. That's our economic message and has been for 30 years. Now, if you're part of the 70% of America that's in the middle of America, where are you in that picture? Where are you? You see, what's the favorite word of every single American? Their name. And when you go out and communicate a message and you aren't saying their name, you aren't talking about them, then you're not connecting. You know, in the last election in 2012, they asked the question on exit survey, what's the most important issue for you in this election? And the answer was, 23% of Americans said the most important issue to them was, does he care about people like me? And when it came to that question, our nominee got 19% of the vote. And those people were middle Americans who are getting crushed by President Obama's economic policy. And they still didn't vote for our folks. Why? Because we're not talking to them. We talk to job creators, not job holders. And ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot more job holders than there are job creators. We have to have a message, and we have to be the party who we are. Workers. People who make a difference. I was at the convention. I spoke on Tuesday night in 2012. I walked into the convention, and on all the chairs there were these placards that said, "We built that." I went into the back of the room, and I met all these business people who, one after another, came out and talked about how they built their business in response to Barack Obama's "You didn't build that." Not one time did we send two people out, a business owner, a job creator, and a job holder, a worker, and talk about how we built that. You see, the Republican Party is the party of union, is the party of unity. The Democratic Party wins elections and governs by dividing. It's the most divisive president in the history of this country. And he divides every single day. And that's how they win. It's black against white, Hispanic against Anglo, women against men, married against single, business against labor. That's how they win. We can't win by dividing. We have to win by uniting. And we have to have a message of unity that includes all of America and recognizes that America isn't just about creating business and grabbing the brass ring and being successful economically. We as Republicans know more than any that we define success not just by money, ladies and gentlemen. Then why as a party is that all we talk about? How about the job holders who contribute to the community, coach the Little League teams, volunteer at the library, at the church? Don't those workers count? Don't those jobs count? You know, 70% of America doesn't have a college degree. What's our message? That's why I wrote this book, because we have to have a message. And we don't have to abandon anything we believe in to accomplish it. In fact, we need to fully embrace what we believe in. We need to embrace the idea that all work is valuable, not just a college-educated worker, but all workers are valuable in America. And I believe in an economy that redistributes wealth. Now, notice I didn't say a government that redistributes wealth, but an economy that does. That's why I focus on what I know growing up in Butler, Pennsylvania, in a blue-collar town, a steel town north of Pittsburgh. Wealth was redistributed. Why? I'll give you an example. 4 months ago, there was a company that was sold called WhatsApp. Never heard of it. But someone bought them for $19 billion. You know how many employees they had? 55. Now imagine a $19 billion manufacturing company. That's wealth redistribution. That's taking all of the wealth and making sure that everybody in the economy, from the bottom to the top, have good paying jobs to create wealth and employ people so we can support families across America. Why can't we as the Republican Party be the party of the revitalization of Made in America? And we can be, because the reason people don't manufacture as much in America is because government, through taxes and regulation and litigation, have made it uncompetitive. So why not conservative ideas that cut taxes, cut regulations, cut litigation, and create an energy economy that provides low-cost energy, which is vitally important for manufacturing? You do those 4 things, we will have a rush of manufacturing like we've never seen since the industrial age. And guess where those manufacturers will be located? They're going to be located in downtown New York. They're going to be located in small town America, all over this country. We'll be creating jobs in all those red counties and creating opportunities, just like in Pennsylvania with the energy boom. The Marcellus Shale has created jobs and wealth in areas where the values of America are still strong. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an opportunity right now in this election, through the disunity that's out there, and it's there, to rebrand the Republican Party, to put us squarely on the side of all Americans, not just business owners, but all Americans. And we can do it by uniting all the factions of the Republican Party. A big part of my book comes from studies that were done just recently by the Obama administration. The Obama administration, as you recall, was going to make this year the year of, you may not remember this because it's gone away. They were going to make this the year of income inequality. Now, you haven't heard that much recently. Why is that? Well, because all these studies that they commissioned to do found out that, well, there isn't any more income inequality now than there was 30 years ago. And it didn't work out so well for them. But here's the thing that really galls them, is when they did the analysis of what creates problems for people not to be able to rise in society, you know what they found was the number one, and all these studies came up with the same conclusion. The number one problem, the number one factor, I should say, in determining whether you could succeed in America and rise in America, family structure. Whether you were married or whether you were raised in a family with two parents. Those were the biggest determinants to whether you would succeed in America. And think about it. The word economy comes from the Greek word oikos, which means home. Every home in America is a little economy. It has a budget. It has revenues and expenditures. It's a little enterprise. Every American home is a little business. And when those businesses break apart, and you have one person trying to do things that was better designed for two. It's not that one can't be successful, and in many cases, in most cases, they are, but it's harder. It's not the way it was supposed to be. Why isn't it that the Republican Party doesn't stand up and say, we believe in marriage and we should design policies, unlike the left, that actually support marriage? Not only the tax code, which of course penalizes married people still today, but all of the benefits for those who are working and trying to climb the economic ladder. I was in Wisconsin in 2012 and campaigning there, and ran into a state senator who's now running for Congress, Glenn Grothman. And he shared with me a study that was done in Wisconsin. A single mother earning $15,000 a year with 2 children made $38,000 in welfare benefits in Wisconsin. But if she married, she'd lose them all. All of these policies intended to help single mothers have done one thing: trap them. Trap them in making it impossible economically for them to marry. It's not that people don't continue to have relationships. Of course they do. We're human beings. But they can't marry because it would be too devastating economically for them. All with the idea of helping them. And of course, the more you work and the higher your income you make, guess what else happens? The benefits get cut off. So we trap them as unmarried and unable to rise through work. You might want to consider the fact of the war on women and the success of the war on women, the much touted success of the war on women. Do you know Mitt Romney, among married women, got over 60% of the vote among all married women across America? Among single women, he got less than 30% of the vote. And think about the policies of the Democratic Party that discourage marriage. And you wonder, you just have to wonder, why are they not embracing marriage? Why are they not doing what all their studies say is the best thing for moms and dads and for children and for society as a whole? Ladies and gentlemen, if they're not going to talk about it, if they're not going to have a marriage revolution and talk about how we as a society will do better, I'm not talking about redefining marriage. I'm talking about reclaiming marriage for the public good that it is, and it has to be a central plank of who we are as conservatives. We have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to reconnect. People say, how are we going to win? The numbers are against us. There's no way demographically. Ladies and gentlemen, who are the workers in America? My grandfather and my dad were immigrants to this country. Did they start out at the top of the income scale? Of course not. Almost all recent immigrants work their way up from the bottom. Work their way up from the bottom. And imagine you have a party now that is speaking to them and creating good jobs in manufacturing and energy and construction. Creating family-sustaining jobs, not by forcing businesses to pay very astronomically high minimum wages, but by creating jobs to redistribute the income of this country by the private sector, and creating real opportunity, not government-forced distortion of the marketplace. We have a chance not just to win for us, but to win for the millions of Americans who are feeling like nobody cares about them, that they've been left behind with stagnant wages and ever-increasing prices. Now that's a vision. That's hopeful. I know that a lot of folks running for office right now are going to say, well, you know, we just want to beat up on the president. Look, I get it. It's fun. It's easy. It's getting easier every day. But you know what? One of the things I learned in campaigning is America, most of America, has a lot of anxiety and fear, a lot of uncertainty. They feel like the American dream is just slipping away or is even impossible anymore. And while beating up on the other side may make you feel good, it doesn't make them feel good. We need to be the party of hope. We need to be a party of a vision that includes everybody and says, we care about it. And here's what we can do. And paint that beautiful mural so every American can see themselves in it. You know why? Because that's who we are. We're not a dividing party. We're not pitting one side. We're not a party of envy and division. We're the party of unity, the party of treating all Americans with dignity and respect. That's why we're the party of life that believes in the dignity of every human person. We don't have to walk away from anything we believe in. Not a single thing. We need to embrace it, and we need to communicate it in a way that touches people where they are. People ask me all the time, Rick, what can I do? I'm just one person. Now, I know you're activists, so in some respects I'm speaking to the choir. But sometimes the choir needs to go out and sing solos. What can you do? And I say this in my book. I don't really care. Just do something. Start with your family. Start in your family. Start with your family. Are your children and your family sharing the values you know made America great? And if they aren't, then get to work. In your church, in your school. Do you know the most popular history textbook in America today in our high schools was written by a Marxist named Howard Zinn, an anti-American Marxist? How many know whether that textbook is being taught to your children in your school? Get involved. We are losing for one reason. And let's just be honest, we are losing ground. We're losing for one reason and one reason only. They want it more than we do. They are willing to make sacrifices more than we do. I'll give you one example as I close. There was a Supreme Court case just a couple weeks ago dealing with Greece, New York. They wanted to be able to say a public Christian prayer before their council meetings. And the Supreme Court ruled that they could do that. And you know what happened the next day? The left went in and filed a whole bunch of new lawsuits. They don't care. They don't give up. They figure they'll lose this one, right back. And how many of conservative leaders have you heard say, after winning 34 of 39 referendums on the issue of marriage, that marriage has been lost, and it's time to give up and move on to something else? We give up before we even lose. We walk away before we even fight. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to fight. Do something. God bless you.